We're live. We're back here on Small Ball. It is a pleasure being here on a Wednesday. Very exciting show for you guys today. We have a lot to talk about. So, recently on Small Ball, I've been doing a lot of trivia games, having guests on to talk about stuff, potentially some debates, things of that nature. There's a lot of stuff. I shouldn't say a lot, but there are multiple things that I want to touch on today myself. We're going to get back into sort of that more traditional rhythm now that it's becoming more and more clear to us when the 2020 MLB season is going to start. More on that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. I'm sure some of you have heard, the news about all that stuff. So we'll get to that in a little bit. We do have two guests coming on today to play a trivia game and talk with us a little bit. We'll get to that also in a second. Before anything else, I just want to reiterate something that I said in our last show. I think it was our last show. And that was encouraging my viewers to check out the KBO, the Korean Baseball Organization. I'm not going to talk about it too much again because, I talked about it a lot on Thursday, but I really do recommend giving it a chance. It's really, really entertaining baseball. I think in some ways even more so than the MLB. Of course, that's, sort of an opinional thing. But I definitely think you guys should check it out. They broadcast one of the games usually per day on ESPN. The timing, for the East Coast schedule, which is the schedule that I'm on, is not ideal in the slightest, but all of the games are recorded and you can watch them really at any time after they commence. So, more on that later. I think if the KBO becomes, something where a lot of people are talking about it, a lot of people are interested in it, it's conceivable that I could actually talk about some of the specifics and get into some of the players and such stuff like that. Before anything, I do, of course, as always, have to notify the world that we are live. And as I do that, I am going to describe what's going on with our viewers today. So we have two viewers. I meant to say guests. We have two guests coming on today, two very good friends of the show. We have Jackson and Spencer Herzog. Now, they're going to play a trivia game. They're not going to play categories like a lot of the multiplayer games we have done so far on this show. They are actually going to play the same game. It's essentially a single-player game. We debuted it a couple days ago on Small Ball. It is, it's two players, so they're going to be working together to win, hopefully, the prize. And as always, the prize is a Small Ball T-shirt. That's what we're rolling with for now. So Spencer and Jackson, are you guys on?
Yeah, we're on.
Cool. How are you guys doing today?
We're good.
Yeah. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. So what's up?
We are happy that we're on the show right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to have you. So I think actually what we're going to do here is we're going to jump right into the trivia game to start, and then we'll talk a little bit later. So, just to describe how this is going to work. Like I said, Jackson and Spencer are going to be working together. And if they are able to win, and I'll explain what that means in a second, they will each receive the grand prize of a Small Ball T-shirt. Now, it is a bit, it's not the easiest trivia game out there. I think claiming that grand prize would be a very, very nice achievement. So, it's definitely going to take some clutch responses to pull it off. So here's how it's going to work. Jackson and Spencer, if you are able to answer the final question correctly, you win. But there's a catch. The final question has 10 different correct responses. So it's essentially a 10-part question. It'll become more clear once I tell you what that question is at the end, what that means. But essentially, you have to come up with 10 of something.
Okay.
Now, there are 10 questions that you're going to receive before we get to that final question. And for every question of those you get correct, you will receive essentially a pass. So if you get 5 of the 10 correct, then you can skip 5 of the 10 parts of the final question, and you only need to answer 5 correctly to win. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, cool. So the questions, are ordered from 1 to 10 in some general order of difficulty. They will get progressively more difficult, but it's not, it doesn't exactly work out like that. But nonetheless, are you guys ready to hop into this game?
Yeah, right. Yes, we are.
All right, cool. So, I really don't have a preference of how you guys want to do this. You guys can alternate questions. You guys can discuss. What do you think works best for you guys? You just want to talk about it and give me your group answer? Is that the best way to go about it?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
we'll do that. Cool. So here we go. Like I said, 10 questions. Once we finish those 10 questions, they will have earned themselves a certain number of passes for the final question. So here we go. It's only 10, so it's a bit shorter than the first edition of this game that we did. And here we go. The first question for you guys. Can you name the winner of the 2019 American League MVP award?
I John. Who is Alice? Bregman? Yeah. Sure. Wait. Sure. Well, in 2018 it was Jose, right? Or was that where? I don't know. Maybe it's Bregman. Yeah, it was. All right, my second. All right, we'll go with Alex Bregman.
Unfortunately, Alex Bregman is incorrect. I would have, I kind of like the way you're thinking. I definitely agree with you that he deserved the AL MVP award, but unfortunately, it was actually Mike Trout, a name that I heard.
Wait.
I heard in there as well. He pulled it out. Very, very tough decision coming down to the wire last year, but he did pull it out, Mike Trout. So, question number 1. Unfortunately, was incorrect, but still 9 questions to go to receive some passes. So number 2, in 2016, the Washington Nationals had 2 starting pitchers in the top 5 in ERA. Can you name those 2 starting pitchers?
All right, we'll go with Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg.
Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg is the correct response. So your first correct response, that earns you so far 1 pass off to a 1-1 start. Good job, Herzogs. Here we go, number 3. Here it is. Only one player. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention, all of these questions have to do with the past decade. So the past 10 years, just to clarify. So only one player in the 2010s was able to win multiple stolen base titles. And this player actually was able to do it 3 times. Can you name that player?
Hamilton Lindor. No. 3 times. Let's see. Yeah, it could be Hamilton. I mean, that's what I would think. You guys over there? Wait, let me spin around though. Well, I mean, he is really biased. Yeah, I think he won us last year. I don't know anyone else that. Yeah, I think we should go with that. I think he won it in 13, 14 and last year. You do? Yeah. All right. We'll go with Billy Hamilton.
Unfortunately, Billy Hamilton is incorrect. Honestly, probably that's probably the answer I would have gone with. If I hadn't known this beforehand. Obviously, a good option. Billy Hamilton, one of the fastest players of the last 10 years. The correct response was actually Dee Gordon. A little bit tough because he hasn't won it since 2017. So, not necessarily one of the elite base stealers last year in 2019. But yes, Dee Gordon is a 3-time stolen base champion, the only player to win the title multiple times in the last 10 years. So far, 1 for 3. Number 4 question is this. Who led Major League Baseball in saves in 2019?
Edmund. Let's see. I wanna. He didn't. No. Oh, it. Yeah, maybe. No. So maybe Hater. No, Hater's no. Cinnamon. No, I want to say Chapman. Chapman had like almost 40 saves, I think. But he won the AL reliever of the year, I think. Yeah. Right? Or was he second? I think he got first. He was? I mean, so it could be Chapman. That's what I think. Wait. I think usually I think it's either Chapman. Sean Menard's a starter. Yes, he's a starter. Okay, alright, what do you want to go? Chapman or no? Chapman. I don't feel like this will be the right answer, no. Alright. I mean, who else would it add up to? I was going to say Hater, because I think he won the NL reliever of the year. Wait, is this which? Most saves. Oh, most saves. Alright, what do you want to go with?
I'm going to need an answer in the next 10 to 15 seconds.
Alright, you know what? Chapman, you want to say Chapman? Alright, yes. Alright, well, I'll go with Chapman.
Aroldis Chapman, unfortunately, is incorrect. He did actually manage to win AL Reliever of the Year. The league leader in saves was not either the AL or NL Reliever of the Year award winner, interestingly enough. Josh Hader did win it in the NL, and Hader and Chapman both finished with 37 saves, 4 shy of Kirby Yates, who actually took home the saves title in 2019. You know, it's a tough one. It's interesting because, again, he didn't win Reliever of the Year, but he really had a strong season with a 1.19 ERA and 41 saves.
That's very good.
Former Yankee also. All right. Question number 5 is kind of a tough one, actually, but maybe you guys can pull this one out. Can you name just one manager of a National League Central team? Current manager.
Of a National League Central team?
Correct.
What's the Pirates manager? He's always red in the face. So who's in the NL Central? Let's see. Is this a current manager, or is this a manager from last year?
So I would give you credit for either, actually.
So was Joe Madden last election? Yeah, he was. I think he was the manager for Chicago in 2016, 17, and 18. Was he last year? And 19. I think he went somewhere after the season, but he may have gone after the 2018 season. Really? No. Wait, so is this from this year, last year? This is from the 2019 season.
So you can give me the 2019 manager, but a couple of the teams do have new managers, heading in on contract as of right now. So I would give you credit for either answer.
Brewers. I know what he looks like. I just don't know his name. Do you want to go with him or no? Wait, you want to go? The Mets are in the Mets are on the East End. Do you want to go with Joe Madden? I don't really think I'll get another answer, but I mean, let's see. Oh, I think St. Louis is in this control. Yeah, I don't know the manager.
Gonna need a response in about 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah. All right. We'll go with Joe Madden. I'm not going to steal it. Let's see. We'll go with Joe Madden.
Okay, Joe Madden is actually currently the manager of the Anaheim Angels, but yes, in fact, was last year the manager of the Chicago Cubs. Some of the current managers you could have named to get credit were Derek Shelton of the Pittsburgh Pirates, Mike Shildt of the Cardinals, David Ross, now the current manager of the Cubs, Craig Counsell of the Brewers, and rookie manager David Bell of the Cincinnati Reds. So you guys have earned yourself your second pass for the final question. Those are going to come in handy, you'll see. And moving on to question number 6, here it is. 5 players have totaled their 3,000th career hit in the 2010s. Can you name 3 of those 5 players?
I'm supposed to get Derek Jeter. Wait, how many players? 5? 3.
5 players, you need to name 3.
There are 5 names. Oh, so Pujols, right? Pujols. Yeah, he has 3,000. Yes. Yeah. Yes. And also 2,000. Ichiro. Okay, so we'll say it's Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, and Ichiro Suzuki.
All 3 of those players did, in fact, record their 3,000th hit in the 2010s. So that is one of the correct responses. The 2 others, just for fun, you want to give it a shot as well?
Albert Pujols. I think, yeah. I think he got it last season, and I want to say I was gonna say Chipper Jones, but I don't think he was even here. Yeah, but it wasn't. I knew they were. Yeah. Let's see what team was he? He was on the Rays. Like this. Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling Chipper Jones and Pujols. That's I'm not even sure if they have 2,000 hits, but I think if I were to go for someone, that's who I would go for.
Albert Pujols did, in fact, in the 2010s. Chipper Jones does have 3,000 hits, but it was pre-2010. So the correct response was Adrian Beltre, who did it in 2018. But you guys are so far 3 for 6, and have earned yourself 3 passes so far, with 4 questions remaining, the 4 toughest questions. But here we go. On July 25th, 2015, Cole Hamels threw a no-hitter as a member of which National League team?
Well, wait. Cole Hamels. Repeat that one more time, please.
Sure. On July 25th, 2015, Cole Hamels threw a no-hitter as a member of which National League team?
Either the Texas Rangers or Milwaukee. No, I think it's the Rangers. Yeah, I think he's on the Rangers back then. It might be a bit too early. He might be 160. Wow. Honest, want to go with it? Well, I know. Not the Reds. Not Philly. Not. Wait, you said the Rangers? Rangers. They're in the AL. No, wait, what? Oh, God. He's on the Cubs. He's on the Cubs. Now he's on the Rangers. Alright. Sorry. If we had said the Rangers, that would have been embarrassing. You want to go with the Cubs? I'm pretty sure. I think he was on the Cubs. Alright, we'll go with the Chicago Cubs.
So, unfortunately, he is a current member of the Chicago Cubs, but that is incorrect. In 2015, he was actually traded to the Rangers, but before being traded to the Rangers, he threw that no-hitter as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies, the team that he was a part of for the first 9 years of his major league, or 8.5, because he was traded mid-season career. So, unfortunately, the Chicago Cubs, was incorrect. He is now a member of the Cubs, so I can see where you're headed with that one. So 3 for 7, and moving on to the final 3 questions. Here we go. Who led Major League Baseball in RBIs in 2019?
All right.
Seems like a simple question, but not,
Yeah.
not necessarily evident.
Let's see. Maybe. So let's see.
I think. Wait, who won the hidden?
The guiding panel.
The bad team.
And that's like
I think that was.
no. So I think what I don't know. What I'm thinking is like it's either Bellinger. I don't think it was Yelich because he got hurt at the end of the season. I want to say Bellinger or Trout. But then again, I don't know.
I could have been Yellow. But
No, Yelich got hurt. Yeah, and it's like our guys. It's like an cumulative stat.
I don't think it's Mike Trout. It probably is, but I just.
I don't know. Mike Trout is already an answer.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, then again, Mike Trout is very good, but he deserves to be the answer to all this stuff.
One person from the Astros.
Bregman? That's what you're saying?
I think it could be. It's not ultimately.
You want to say Bellinger? I just feel like it's Bellinger.
So our final three answers are Bellinger, Bregman, and Trout. It could not LeMahieu, right?
No. I'm gonna go to Bellinger. All right. Should we say Bellinger? I don't know.
Well,
This is a struggle.
Gonna need a final answer in the next few seconds.
All right. We'll say Cody Bellinger, please.
Unfortunately, Cody Bellinger is incorrect. The correct response was not actually someone that you named. Anthony Rendon with 126 led Major League Baseball last year. Bellinger, I believe, was 10th with 115, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Anthony Rendon had 126. So question 8 in the book. So far, 3 passes, 2 questions to go. So you can get yourselves up to 5. But currently you are sitting at 3. Number 9. Here we go. Who was the starting third baseman for the American League in the 2017 All-Star Game?
wait, for
Seven.
American League.
All right. I don't think it's Bregman.
No,
Bregman wasn't.
Carlos Santana plays third, right? I think he
Yeah.
was really good in 2017.
Did he? I think he. Yeah.
So that's an answer. Who played third on the Yankees?
No, it was Alcibiades.
No. Yeah, he probably got 20.
All right. So Carlos Santana is. That's an option. And that's a good option.
It's a good option, but I don't think it's right.
Oh, Manny Machado.
Wait.
He was on the Orioles.
Oh, yeah, she was on the Orioles, right?
And was he good that year? 2017. I don't know. I feel like he was. I don't know. But we have. Should we go with it?
Wait, who?
Machado
Machado
or Santana? Because Santana's a good answer.
I mean,
I think Santana goes.
this is tough. Wait, so was he from the Red Sox?
All right. If you want to go with Santana, then all right. You want to say it?
Wait.
Carlos Santana.
I still feel like it's Machado though.
All right. So let's say Machado.
No, it's Santana.
Whatever. All right. Just pick. Just pick. Carlos Santana. Just Carlos Santana. Say it.
You say.
All right. Jackson Nix is Carlos Santana, so we'll go with that.
So that starter at third base in the All-Star game in 2017 for the American League was an Indian, but not Carlos Santana. It was actually Jose Ramirez.
Jose Ramirez.
So kind of an under the radar answer
mixed
there.
them up. Like I went from third to first. Carlos Santana plays first.
Yeah. Well, at that
Yeah,
point he was
like-
kind of playing catcher and he kind of
Yeah.
moved around a bunch. But Jose Ramirez had that was just crazy season, 2 crazy seasons in 2017 and 2018. So
Do you know if Machado actually made it that year?
I'm not sure. I can look that up for you
I
though.
don't think he did.
I'm gonna check that for you. 2017 AL All-Star roster. So one question to go. So you have earned yourself 3 passes. Can get that up to 4 with a correct response. I'm gonna check on here to see. So no, Manny Machado. It does not look like was on that was on that team, and nor was Carlos Santana. So the final question of the first segment of this game is number 10. Tough one, but here it is. In 2015, only 2 pitchers were able to amass at least 20 wins. Can you name one of those 2 pitchers?
Maybe Verlander. Wait, he was on the Astros. He was on the Tigers show, yeah. And there was a question earlier about 2015, about ERA, about just Scherzer and Strasburg. Or it was, yeah. And then Hamels got traded, so maybe he wasn't actually pitching that well. But so it could be Scherzer, honestly. Scherzer and Verlander. I feel good with Verlander. Well, who wants to sign up? I want to say Verlander, but I don't know. I feel like Verlander was good. Yeah, I think it was really good. Alright, wait, so one of our answers is Verlander. Yeah. Alright, you want to say Verlander? We're gonna say Verlander is our first answer. Well, I think we only got one answer.
Yeah, you only need one.
Yeah, so just say Verlander. Verlander is our final answer.
Unfortunately, Justin Verlander did not amass at least 20 wins, but a Houston Astro was one of the correct answers in Dallas Keuchel, and the other was Jake Arrieta.
Oh,
Jake Arrieta, yeah.
they're so bad.
But yeah, I mean, kind of, has seen a decline, but yeah, back in 2015 was pretty lights out. So we have now concluded the first section of this game, and now only 3 passes. So it's going to be tough. So you have to get 7 of these. So essentially, it's one question, but there are 7 or 10. Individual answers, and you need to get 7 for each of you to win the grand prize. And if you don't, you won't win the grand prize, but you will get 1 small ball point for every correct response, and you each earn a small ball point for appearing on today's show. And more on small ball points later. I'll re-describe what that means for those of you who don't know. So here we go. Here's the question. You need to come up with the 10 teams that fit this description. Here it goes. Can you guys name the last 10 winners of the pennant to not win the World Series? So essentially the runner-up of each of the last 10 seasons. So here's how it's going to work. We are going to go... you can actually determine the order. So we can either go from 2019 down to 2010 or from 2010 up to 2019. and then we'll go year by year, and you can either give me an answer or you can give me a pass. And if you answer incorrectly at any point, you will be eliminated. So would you guys want to start go in reverse chronological order or in regular chronological?
We'll
Yeah,
go
chronological
reverse.
order.
Start at 2019.
All right, you want to start with 2019? Okay. So again, like for example, we're going to start with 2019. You have to tell me who was the runner-up, and if you don't know and you want to pass, you can just say pass, and you have 3 of those for these 10 questions that you have to answer. So here we go. We'll start with 2019.
All right.
Jackson and Spencer, who was the pennant winner in 2019 that did not win the World Series?
The Astros.
The Houston Astros is correct. So, yeah. So, staying alive, 1 so far. And again, you have 3 passes. Once you get to 7 correct answers, you will win the grand prize if you do so. So, off to a hot start. 2019 was the Houston Astros. What about 2018?
The Dodgers.
The Los Angeles Dodgers, also correct. 2018, I'm just kind of keeping notes as we go along. 2018, the Los Angeles Dodgers were defeated by the Boston Red Sox. What about 2017?
The Dodgers again.
The Dodgers again, also correct. So 3 in a row to start off. Jackson and Spencer, what about 2016?
The Indians.
The Cleveland Indians is correct. So very confident responses thus far. 2015 is the next year on the list.
Mets.
The Mets is the correct response. The New York Mets. So we are at 5. You only need 2 more, and you have 3 passes to go. Obviously, you guys could be Googling this stuff, but hopefully, I'm trusting you guys based on the honor system that this is coming from your knowledge and not the internet. So, as always, but 2014 is next. 2014, who was the runner-up?
The Kansas City Royals.
The Kansas City Royals is correct. So, actually, you guys are kind of coming up clutch here. You only need 1 more correct response to secure yourselves that grand prize, and you have 3 passes remaining. 2013, who was the runner-up?
They weren't just 10.
And again, you can pass if you aren't confident enough to answer that question.
Oh, I think it was the. I think it was the. No. Should we pass?
Well, wait.
How many more? We need
one more
answer.
You need 1 more. There's 20. So there's 4 left. 2013, 12, 11, and 10. And you have 3 passes. So essentially, you can pick from which of those years you feel the most confident about.
Do you think they put this I think. Where should I look? St. Louis 2011, but I think they. That's it. I don't. Yeah, they. So I think that. So then he was an American League team.
Yeah. I think what we'll do. Do you want to pass on the 2013?
And on the 2013. Yes.
All right. Is that your official?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So they're gonna pass.
We hear just for prior knowledge, just for future knowledge.
Yeah, totally. It was so. Well, let's get all the way through, and then I'll read,
All right.
and I'll give you guys an opportunity to answer just for fun the ones that you passed on.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
2012. So
It was the
San
Giants one.
Francisco won in 2012. So it was an AL team.
Yeah.
Wasn't anyone from the American League?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Or sorry, from the American League East.
That's fine. I think so.
No. Yankees, no. Red Sox, no. Orioles, no. Blue Jays, no. Rays, no. So we got the AL East, Central and West.
It's coming down to the wire here.
Pittsburgh, no.
Coming down to the wire.
Yes.
One remaining for the grand
All right.
prize.
2012 Giants.
Royals are an option.
I don't know. I'm not. I wouldn't. If we get this wrong, then we're done. So I'm not confident about this one.
Yeah, again, you have 2 more passes. So if you're not confident, obviously you can use those 2 to your advantage.
You want to skip it? Pass it? Yeah, you don't.
Very exciting finish here on small ball. I'm going to need an answer or a pass relatively soon if you can come up with that.
So we're gonna decide to pass on this one.
Okay, so the second of 3 passes has now been used. There are now 2 years remaining, 2011 and 2010. Jackson and Spencer, who was the runner-up in 2011?
So I think that was the year that David Freese took the walk-off in Game 6.
So, and that was the Cardinals.
I think they were playing the Rangers. I think they were playing the Rangers.
I think they were. I think they were playing Rangers.
And I think the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals won. And I don't know. I think 2010 the Phillies won. But I don't know who they beat.
No, wait.
So
No,
I'm not confident.
Wait, in what year?
We're talking about 2011. But I think if you pass this, I don't know 2010.
Wait, we can't pass. Oh, wait, no,
We can.
You could pass. Yeah, you have 1 pass remaining. So essentially, you just have to pick which one you're more confident in, 2011 or 2010.
All right. So
San Francisco won in 2010.
Oh yeah.
So
the Phillies won 2018. Do you want to say the Rangers?
I think the Rangers would be a good answer. I mean,
I don't know. I feel like they were there. I feel like they were in the World Series. Gonna say it? Is that a final answer, Jay?
final answer, Rangers.
Okay, the Texas Rangers is your response. You guys were correct. The Cardinals did, in fact, win that series with a home run in Game 6 by David Freese to propel them. And the team that they beat was, in fact, the Texas Rangers. So you guys, a clutch finish, have secured yourself the victory. Congratulations. You will both be going home with a small ball T-shirt. I mean, I guess you guys are already at home, so you won't literally be going home with a T-shirt, but that will be on the way to you guys. Congratulations. A very, very clutch performance in the final question and in the game at large. The Texas Rangers, yes, they did in fact lose that series in 7 games. In Game 6, they were 1 out away, 1 strike away in 2 separate occasions. So basically, just about as close as you can get. Freese actually tied the game with a triple, a 2-run triple in the 9th, and then won it with a walk-off, and then they won Game 7 5-2. So, again, congratulations. Very, very strong performance from you guys. And you guys are the champions. So, really good work. Now, you guys can, just for fun, 2010, you can take a shot at it if you would like.
So the Royals.
We're going to say the Royals.
So the Giants won that series, and actually the Texas Rangers were also the runner-ups. So they, unfortunately for them, were defeated in back-to-back World Series, just like the Dodgers in 2017 and in 2018. And you guys passed also on 2013 and 2012, so you can take a stab at that as well.
So let's see.
I'm going to say for 2012.
It was the Giants again. The Giants won. Could have been the Phillies. They're both in the NL, but
I'm sorry.
okay, so the Giants. Let's see, the Giants.
2012.
If you'd like a hint, I can give you a hint.
Would you like a hint, Johnson? Yes, please.
Okay, so 2 hints actually. This was the only sweep in the World Series in the 2010s, and the team that won. So the Cardinals were the team to, or excuse me, the Giants were the team to win the title, and they beat a team that beat the Yankees in the ALCS that year. Swept the Yankees, in fact. I believe you're both Yankees fans, so maybe you guys remember that series. But they knocked off the Yankees in the ALCS, and then were unable to win the World Series, but did win the AL pennant.
I know who won in 2013. Ray Sox. So I think it was the Yankees. I want to say the Indians, but why didn't you know? Say no. I don't know. Why not? What answer do you have? All right, you don't have an answer. All right, like 10 more seconds. But all right. Yeah. We'll say. Eagles maybe. We'll say the Indians.
Incorrect. The Indians is incorrect. It was the Detroit Tigers.
Oh.
They had a pretty loaded team back in 2012 with Miguel Cabrera, Justin Verlander. I believe Prince Fielder was on that team as well at that point. So, yeah. So just to recap, 2019 was the Houston Astros, 18 the Dodgers, 17 the Dodgers, 16 the Indians, 15 the Mets, 14 the Royals, 13 the Cardinals. I forgot to ask you about 13. I'm sorry. That was totally my fault.
I think it's the Cardinals.
That's correct. The Cardinals is correct. I totally forgot. I don't know how I missed that. But anyway, yeah, the Red Sox took down the Cardinals in that series. That's my bad. Tigers in 12, Rangers in both 11 and 10. But you guys were able to come up with 7 correct responses, which is what you needed to go home with the grand prize. So congratulations again. Very, very exciting finish as well. It came really honestly down to the wire, which is one of the things that I love about this particular trivia game that we do here on Small Ball. I haven't thought of a good name for it yet. Maybe you guys can give that some thought and help me out. But yeah, nonetheless, a very, very strong performance. Now, we have, a little bit of time left. There's some stuff I want to get to, but before I do, I want to hear your guys' thoughts while I have you on about – and I'll describe it, before we get to you guys, but about the proposal to bring Major League Baseball back for this season. So essentially, the proposal has been approved by the owners and is now being considered by the Major League Baseball Players Association. And if they approve it, it will be, barring any more complications, it will be put into place. And what it says in terms of when the season will start, amongst many other things, including money and things of that nature, it says that Major League Baseball will start its spring training 2.0 in mid-June and will start the regular season in early July. I've heard July 1st, but I've also heard more generally early July. So not entirely clear when that would be. But if that is the case, and any other thoughts, that you guys are willing to share about what you think about baseball coming back, that particular time frame, anything that you guys have on your minds about that, I'd love to hear it.
Well, I think it would be great to have baseball back. It's going to be a lot different, of course, without any fans. And with the way that the divisions are going to be set up, how it's going to be like the East plays the East, even though it's interleague play and the Central plays the Central, the West plays the West. So you're going to be playing teams that you wouldn't normally always be playing. You'll still play with your division. I like that part. But it'll be interesting. Like the Yankees are going to play the Mets. I mean, they already do play the Mets, but maybe in 2 or 3 or 4 series during the season, which I think will be really fun. I think regarding the 82 games, I don't see how the season could be much longer without taking a major toll on the players by having to play 2 or 3 double headers a week. But I think it gives advantages to the more streaky teams that have really good, sometimes 50, 60 game stretches, but then they sort of wear out as the season goes on. So that's why it'll give a lot of lots of different teams will have a chance this year. Also, with the playoffs being expanded to 14 teams, I believe.
Yes, that is true.
So you won't really see tanking this year as much because teams will always believe that they have a chance, as opposed to in past years when there were fewer teams that made the playoffs. So I like it because I also think there are going to be more competitive games. And I don't think you'll see as many. I think you'll see better games.
Yeah, for sure. You raised a lot of good points that I want to touch on. But Jackson, any thoughts from you?
I mean, I don't have many words about this, but I think that the season is, I guess, the right length. I feel like it's just, I don't know. I mean, I guess a nice length. I think that, as Spencer said, the 14 the 14 teams playoffs will be actually interesting because it has not happened in the MLB. So I think that will be interesting when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that, sort of, if they go well, could actually potentially come into play going forward. Like, I think this 14-team playoff is something that the MLB has been interested in for a while. I personally like the idea of more teams. I think it just makes for more exciting baseball. A lot of people, feel like the playoff list of teams should be a little bit more exclusive than that, but I like it. I think, Spencer, you raised a really interesting point that I hadn't thought about, is that given the, a half season essentially of 82 games, you touched on the point that teams a lot of times, can put it together for 50, 60, maybe even 70 games, but sort of trail off by the end of the year. Another point, sort of off of that, is that I think players are generally going to be a lot healthier, by that 82nd game, which traditionally obviously is the 162nd game. So I think we're going to see, a lot more players at full strength, obviously essentially playing half a season. So not, doesn't quite have the wear and tear of a 162 game season. I think that makes for better playoffs because we won't see, obviously quite as many injuries, especially for pitchers. And I think there are a lot of injuries that sort of go under the radar. Like, for example, there's all kinds of, things that can go on behind the scenes, especially with pitchers that, while they're not technically noted as injuries and those players don't necessarily go on the IL, I'm sure a lot of guys are sort of hanging by a thread, if you will, by that 162nd game and thus into the playoffs. So I think it could actually make for an even better, final stretch of the regular season and postseason as well. And I think, what you guys talked about in terms of the scheduling, right? That East, West, and Central breakdown could be very interesting. And something that I've thought about a couple times, which would never actually happen, and I totally understand why it wouldn't happen, is if they were to shuffle the divisions every year. I think that would be a lot more interesting. I don't think it's quite the right idea because I think obviously, the divisions create rivalries, which, obviously drives up the interest level in certain games. And, obviously we want to see Yankee Red Sox every year and Giants Dodgers every year and, Cubs Cardinals and stuff like that. But I do think it's interesting to see those different matchups, and you guys talked about that for sure. Like, obviously, we'll get more Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Astros would both be in that Western division, which is obviously interesting as well. It's kind of funny, actually, when you look at it. It's all the breakdown that they've proposed is all AL East with AL West, AL Central with AL Central, AL Central with NL Central, and then AL West with NL West. With one exception, they've actually switched the Pirates into the East and the Braves into the Central, which I don't really understand why they didn't just stick with that pattern. But nonetheless, that's what they're proposing. So, yeah, hopefully that goes through. There are a lot of complications, with money and the players. They're proposing, I think, a 50-50 revenue split between the owners and the players, which is much, much, much less for the players than in years past. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much gonna wrap up that conversation. And I'm really hoping, like you guys said, that we get baseball as soon as we can. And like I said earlier on the show, there's no MLB baseball right now, but the KBO, I'm having a lot of fun with it. So to all of my viewers, I would highly recommend checking that out if you haven't yet. But it's been a real pleasure having you guys on the show. Again, congratulations on your performance in that trivia game that we played. Both of you are going home with a small ball t-shirt. So congratulations on that front as well. Any final thoughts before I let you guys go? We only have a couple more minutes on the show I'm going to wrap up with, but I'd love to hear anything you guys have to say.
Well, also one more point on the new proposal. Like, I think that the DH in across the entire league, I think it'll be interesting to see, because it takes away a lot of sort of like the culture in the NL with seeing the pitchers hit. It's always fun, but it's also always a liability for your team. So I think that'll be interesting. I think it could turn out to be really good with teams like the Dodgers, who are loaded, but they always have that one spot in their lineup where they can't put in a good hitter. So I think teams with lots of good hitters, I think they'll benefit from that.
Yeah, totally. I totally forgot to mention that. Obviously, the universal DH has been talked about for a long time now. I personally don't really have a strong preference either way. I think a lot of people want to see the universal DH just for, just on the fact that, they want to see a uniform set of rules for every team. Like, it's definitely odd that one league plays with it and one league plays without it. It doesn't bother me, but I could see how that could bother people. And obviously seeing the pitcher come up to bat, it's a little bit of a waste of a lineup spot, right? I think it'd be a lot more interesting if we could see, Jock Peterson or Kike Hernandez, or maybe on the American League side, Gio Urshela can get some opportunities. And there's a plethora of things that could obviously come from that. But again, I don't really have a strong preference either way, but I think it was going to happen sooner or later. And then MLB obviously is taking this opportunity to try it out now. And I would not be surprised at all to see them stick with this going forward. And I think the player, I think it's just better for the players, right? Because obviously, that ninth hitter on a National League team wants to get those at-bats. And I don't really think pitchers have a strong inclination to, come up to the plate. Obviously, there are a couple exceptions, but for the most part, it's probably seen by the pitchers more as a nuisance rather than a plus. So, yeah, good point as well. Again, thank you guys so much for coming on today. Yeah, totally. You'll receive 1 small ball point for coming on the show and 7 for those 7 correct responses that you were able to come up with. Small ball points, for those of you who haven't heard, are essentially it's an accumulation of points, and they will earn you prizes as you accumulate certain amounts. None of those prizes are set yet. I'll post that as soon as I come up with it. It's tough to sort of organize, but I want to get you guys, sort of more involved, right? If you come on the show, being able to earn some stuff, I think that's pretty cool. So, again, thank you guys so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I hope you guys have a nice night, and you're definitely welcome back on as soon as possible. As soon as you want, whenever you want to come back on, totally welcome. So thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us. Thank you so much for having us.
Totally. So, in the last 5 minutes, I received a question in the comments from one of my viewers asking what's the best way and easiest way to watch the KBO, the Korean Baseball Organization. So, unfortunately, here in the U.S., not all of the games are televised. However, they generally televise one of the 5 games on ESPN. So there are 10 teams in the KBO. So obviously, if all of them are playing at once or in one given day, they generally do that. 5 games to watch over in Korea, but in the United States, only one of those games is televised on ESPN. So in Eastern Standard Time, a lot of the games are at 1 a.m. Some are at 2:30 a.m. A couple have been at 5:30 a.m. But ESPN shows repeats of the games at more, available and more standard times for watching television over on the East Coast, and then obviously on the West Coast as well. But all of those games, if you go to watch ESPN on the internet or on your mobile phone, is how I do it. So, generally I don't stay up that late watching those games. A lot of times, if it's at 1, I'll watch the first couple innings. But if I completely miss a game, I just have to go into Watch ESPN, sign in with my TV provider. If you're unable to do that, I think that would prohibit you from doing that. But I'm sure there are other streams and other recordings of the games on the internet. But the way I do it is watch ESPN, and all of the games, if you go to schedule and replays, are there for you to watch in its entirety. So it's even better in a way because you can skip the commercials, you can skip whatever you want if you don't have time to watch the full game. The games generally are shorter than Major League games just because there's fewer commercials. The pace of play is a little bit faster. The games are generally like 2.5 hours on average, I would say. So again, let's say, last night, or I guess early this morning, there was the NC Dinos. They're kind of my team, if you will. They played at 1 a.m. So I didn't want to watch that game. I was pretty tired. But what I was able to do was at whatever time works best for me. It was I turned it on at 1 in the afternoon. Just go to Watch ESPN, schedule and replays. You do have to sign in with your TV provider username and password. If you can't do that, then I'm sure there's some stuff on Reddit or other streams that you can access. But what I do is schedule and replays. Just click on if you go to replays, there's a replays tab. Just click on that game, and you can watch the entire game and fast forward and rewind wherever you feel necessary. So without the commercials in between innings, it's an hour and a half, sometimes maybe an hour 45 minutes if I watch the entire game. So it's essentially half the time spent of watching a major league game, but the full 9 innings of action. And yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Obviously, I don't know as much about the players and even the culture and just the style of play as much as I do the MLB. But I'm getting a lot. I'm getting really involved. I'm getting interested, learning a lot of the players' names. Some of the players are former major leaguers. A couple of the players are major league hopefuls that in the next couple of years will potentially be signed by major league teams. So there's obviously a lot that it has in common with the MLB, and I think just the universal baseball community obviously is tied together by the game that we all share. Obviously, there are differences in sort of the culture and the style of play, which I think is really interesting to see. And personally, I like the style better. I obviously I've only seen a couple of games. It's only been on for a couple of weeks now, but so far, there's a lot more action, in terms of, small ball, no pun intended, small ball stuff like bunting, stealing, hit and runs, guys trying to take extra bases. There's a lot more strategy involved than there is in a major league game, in my opinion. I just think the culture is a lot more about creating runs rather than just trying to put a bunch of runs on the board at one time with a home run. So a lot fewer strikeouts as well. So you get to see a lot more defensive plays. The velocity is a little bit down from where it is in the big leagues. So contact is up. The defense, I think, is even better than it is in the MLB. I just think, there's a lot more emphasis on defense. And I think in a lot of cases where major league players would not be able to find a starting spot because their defense could be a liability, I think that's even more the case in Korea. Whereas I think in the MLB, a lot of times they put up with a defensive, maybe not necessarily liability, but defensive struggles if they can get some more offense out of it. So anyway, that's my breakdown of the KBO. A couple stuff that I didn't get to today, but definitely obviously can just save it for tomorrow. We'll be back again tomorrow. So thanks again so much for watching. It's been fun. We'll be back at it tomorrow at around 6, and we'll get to that stuff that I wasn't able to get to today. So thanks again. I might do a Tuesday top 10 tomorrow because I didn't do it yesterday. But hopefully you guys can tune in, like, subscribe, recommend if you feel inclined to do so, and have a healthy, happy, and safe rest of your Wednesday. Thanks again so much for watching. It's been fun. Have a good one. Peace.